Jessie's breath caught as Min-jae whispered, "Are you sure?" "Make me your wife," she breathed. Completely. Hours later, lying beside him, her phone buzzed. 3:47 a.m. Check his office. Bottom drawer. Inside, a burner phone, fake passport, USB drive labeled insurance. Jessie. Min-jae stood in the doorway. Step away from the desk. "Why do you need this if you're really out?" "There are things I haven't." Glass shattered downstairs. Min-jae pulled her behind him, all gentleness gone. "Whatever happens, remember I love you." Shadows filled the doorway. 1, 2, 3. The past had finally caught up. Would they survive the night? Before we begin, if you love forbidden romance, powerful men falling hard, and strong black women who don't compromise their values, take a second to subscribe, like this video, and join our growing family of listeners. Turn on your notification bell so you never miss a story like this. Tonight's story is an Afro-Korean romance about Jessie Williams, a principled virgin bride, and a Korean mafia boss who hides his dark past behind a non-profit mission until the truth explodes on their wedding day. Love, secrets, danger, and a vow that's about to be broken for the right man. Now, settle in. Let's begin the story. You're staring again. Jessie Williams didn't look up from her laptop, but she felt the weight of his gaze across the conference table like a physical thing. 3 weeks of monthly donor meetings, and Choi Min-jae still watched her with that particular intensity that made her hyper-aware of every breath she took. "I apologize," he said, his English precise, accent softening the edges of his words. "I was thinking about your proposal for the Nairobi literacy program. The budget allocation seems conservative." Now she did look up. Min-jae sat with perfect posture in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, his expression neutral except for something in his eyes she couldn't quite name. The other board members had already filtered out, leaving them alone in the glass-walled room overlooking downtown Atlanta. "Conservative means sustainable," Jessie said, closing her laptop. "I've seen too many programs crash because they built castles on sand. We start small, prove concept, then scale. Practical." He nodded, a slight smile touching his mouth. "But you dream bigger than your budgets suggest." "You don't know what I dream about." The words came out sharper than she intended, and something flickered in his expression, amusement, maybe, or curiosity. Jessie gathered her papers, suddenly needing distance from whatever this was. She'd been raised in a church that taught her to guard her heart, and lately, Min-jae had been testing those guards without even trying. "I know you dream about reaching 50,000 children in the next 5 years, Min-jae said quietly. "You mentioned it during your interview. You said it in a way that made me believe you would do it even if we didn't fund a single dollar." Jessie paused, her hand on her bag. That interview had been 6 months ago, when she'd first applied to coordinate programs for his foundation. She hadn't expected him to remember the exact number, or the way she'd probably sounded too passionate, too unprofessional. "I have a good memory," he added, standing now, moving around the table with an ease that made her think of water, smooth, inevitable. "And you interest me, Ms. Williams." "Your work interests me." "My work," she repeated, watching him. "Yes." He stopped a respectful distance away, hands in his pockets. "Though I admit I find the woman behind the work equally compelling." Jessie's grandmother had always told her that smooth-talking men were dangerous, but Min-jae didn't talk smooth. He talked careful, like he weighed every word before releasing it into the world. That somehow felt more dangerous. "Mr. Choi." "Min-jae, please. We've been working together for months now." "Min-jae," she corrected, tasting his name for the first time. "I appreciate the professional respect, but I should be clear. I'm not interested in mixing business with anything personal." "Why not?" The question was so direct it caught her off guard. Most men, when faced with gentle rejection, either pushed harder or retreated. Min-jae just looked genuinely curious, like he wanted to understand her logic. "Because I have boundaries," Jessie said finally. "Clear ones. And I don't cross them for anyone." Something in his expression softened. "I respect boundaries, Ms. Williams. But I'm asking if you would consider having coffee with me. Not as your employer. I can arrange for you to report to someone else if that makes you comfortable." just as two people who might enjoy each other's company. Jessie felt her resolve waver. She'd noticed him too, of course. It was impossible not to. Min-jae moved through the world with a calm authority that drew eyes, but unlike most powerful men she'd encountered, he listened more than he spoke. He'd never interrupted her, never dismissed her ideas, never made her feel like the only black woman in the room even when she was. "I don't date casually," she heard herself say. "Neither do I. I mean, I don't date at all unless I can see it going somewhere real. Marriage level real." Most men would have run. Min-jae's eyes only grew more intent. "Good," he said simply. "Because I don't waste time on things that don't matter." That was how it started. One coffee became two, became dinner, became walks through Piedmont Park, where Min-jae told her about growing up in Seoul, about losing his parents young, about building his foundation from nothing because he believed education could break cycles of poverty. He asked about her family, her faith, her decision to stay in Atlanta after college when so many of her friends had scattered to other cities. "My grandmother raised me," Jessie told him one evening, watching the sun set over the park's lake. "After my parents died in a car accident. She taught me that my body is a temple, that love is sacred, that I should never give pieces of myself to someone who hasn't earned all of me." She sounds like a wise woman. She passed 2 years ago. Jessie felt the familiar ache in her chest. "Cancer. But her voice is still the loudest one in my head." Min-jae was quiet for a moment, then said, "My mother used to say that the dead stay with us as long as we honor what they taught us." "It sounds like you honor your grandmother every day." It was the kind of thing that should have sounded trite, but coming from him, it felt like understanding. Jessie found herself telling him things she rarely shared, how lonely she sometimes felt, how hard it was to date with her standards, how she'd watched friends compromise their values and regret it later. "I won't compromise," she said firmly. "I won't sleep with someone I'm not married to, no matter how long we date. I won't give up my faith or my work. And I won't be with someone who wants to change those things about me." "I don't want to change anything about you," Min-jae said, and the way he looked at her made her believe him. "I want to know you. All of you. At whatever pace you need." 3 months in, he still hadn't tried to kiss her. He held her hand during movies, draped his jacket over her shoulders when she got cold, stood when she entered a room. Old-fashioned courtship that made her friends raise eyebrows, but made Jessie feel cherished in a way she'd never experienced. "He's too perfect," her best friend Keisha said over brunch one Saturday. "Nobody's that patient." "What's he hiding?" "Nothing," Jessie insisted, but the seed of doubt had been planted. "He's just respectful." "Respectful is one thing. But girl, you've been dating 4 months and he hasn't even tried to kiss you? That's not respect, that's weird. Maybe he's waiting for the right moment. Or maybe he's married. Or gay. Or he's not married," Jessie cut in, irritation flaring. "I've been to his house. There are no signs of a woman." "You've been to his house and still nothing happened?" "I didn't go there for that." Jessie set down her fork. "Keisha, I know you're looking out for me, but not every man is like Jerome." Keisha's expression tightened. Jerome had been her ex, the one who'd said he respected her celibacy, then tried to pressure her into changing her mind. The one who'd made her feel like her standards made her unlovable. "I'm sorry," Jessie added quietly. Min-jae is different." "I feel it." "Then where does he go on Tuesdays and Thursdays?" Jessie blinked. "What?" "You said he's always busy those nights. Every week, same schedule." "What's he doing?" "I don't know. Business meetings. At 9 p.m.? Regularly." Keisha leaned forward. "Jessie, I love you, and I want you to be happy. But please, just be careful. Ask questions. Make sure you really know this man before you." "Before I what?" "Fall in love with him." Jessie felt her throat tighten. Too late. The words hung between them, heavy with truth. Jessie had been trying not to name the feeling, but there it was. She loved Min-jae. Loved his quiet strength, his thoughtful silences, the way he looked at her like she was the only person in the world who mattered. "Then you definitely need to know who he really is," Keisha said gently. "Love doesn't mean ignoring red flags. It means caring enough to face them." That night, Jessie lay awake thinking about Tuesdays and Thursdays. Min-jae had mentioned standing commitments, business obligations he couldn't miss. She'd never pushed for details because she respected his privacy, but now Keisha's words circled her mind like vultures. The next Tuesday, she decided to drive by his house. Just to see. Just to quiet the doubts. His car was gone. The house dark. She felt foolish immediately, sitting in her car down the street like some jealous girlfriend. This wasn't who she was. She trusted Min-jae. Movement caught her eye. A dark sedan pulled up to Min-jae's driveway, and two men got out. Even from a distance, Jessie could tell they weren't business associates. They moved wrong, too alert, too coordinated. One of them glanced around before heading to the door, and Jessie saw something under his jacket that looked like. No. She was being paranoid. Atlanta was a big city. Lots of people had security. But these men didn't look like security. They looked like soldiers. Jessie started her car and drove away, heart pounding. She was letting Keisha's paranoia infect her. Min-jae was a philanthropist, a good man who'd never given her reason to doubt him. Those men were probably just. Her phone buzzed. Min-jae. * missing you tonight. Lunch tomorrow. * Jessie stared at the message, thumb hovering over the keyboard. She typed and deleted 3 responses before settling on. Yes. We should talk. His reply came immediately. About anything in particular? Us. Where this is going. A longer pause this time. Then. I've been wanting to have that conversation. Tomorrow, then. I'll pick you up at noon. Jessie set her phone down, hands trembling slightly. Tomorrow she would ask him directly. About his Tuesdays and Thursdays. About those men. About what he wasn't telling her. Because Keisha was right about one thing: love meant facing the truth, whatever it was. Min-jae took her to a Korean restaurant in Duluth, the kind of place where everyone seemed to know him. The owner greeted him in rapid Korean, and Min-jae responded in kind, his whole demeanor shifting into something more comfortable, more himself. You're different here, Jessie observed after they'd ordered. How so? More relaxed. Like you don't have to perform. Min-jae studied her across the table. You notice everything, don't you? That's not an answer. He smiled slightly. No, it's not. He folded his hands on the table, and Jessie noticed for the first time how carefully he moved, like every gesture was calculated. You said you wanted to talk about us. About where this is going. I do. But first I need you to be honest with me about something. His expression didn't change, but something in the air between them shifted. Ask. What do you do on Tuesday and Thursday nights? Silence. Min-jae's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Business meetings, he said finally. At 9 p.m.? Every week. Some of my business partners keep unusual hours. What kind of business, Min-jae? He looked at her for a long moment, and Jessie saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before: calculation. He was deciding what to tell her, how much to reveal. The realization made her stomach drop. I have investments beyond the foundation, he said carefully. Import-export. Some of my partners are international, so meetings happen at odd hours to accommodate time zones. It was a good answer. Reasonable. Probably even partially true. And Jessie didn't believe a word of it. I drove by your house last night, she said quietly. I saw men arrive. They didn't look like business partners. Min-jae went very still. You followed me? I didn't follow you. Your car was gone. But those men were exactly what I said. Business partners. His voice had gone flat, controlled. Jessie, I understand you have questions, but I need you to trust me. Trust goes both ways. And you're not being honest with me. I'm being as honest as I can be right now. That's not the same thing. The food arrived, creating a buffer of forced normalcy. They ate in tense silence, and Jessie felt the distance between them grow with every passing minute. This wasn't how she'd imagined this conversation going. I love you, Min-jae said suddenly, setting down his chopsticks. Jessie's breath caught. He'd never said it before. Neither had she, though the words had been sitting on her tongue for weeks. I love you, he repeated, leaning forward. And I understand that my work creates questions I can't fully answer right now. But I'm asking you to trust that everything I do with integrity. I would never put you in danger. I would never involve you in anything that would compromise your values. Then tell me what you're involved in. I can't. Not yet. Why not? Because some truths require context. Because I need to tie up loose ends before I can be completely transparent. He reached across the table, taking her hand. Give me 3 months. 3 months to handle my obligations and exit certain business arrangements. Then I'll tell you everything. I promise. Jessie wanted to pull her hand away. Wanted to stand up and walk out. But the desperation in his eyes kept her rooted. 3 months, she said slowly. And then full honesty. About everything. Yes. And if I don't like what I hear, then I'll let you go. His grip on her hand tightened. But I'll fight like hell to make sure you understand why I did what I did. And why I'm changing. Changing from what? From who I was before I met you. It wasn't an answer. But it was something. And Jessie found herself nodding, accepting the compromise even as every instinct screamed at her to run. 3 months, she repeated. But Min-jae, if you're in some kind of trouble, if you need help. The only thing I need is you, he interrupted. Your patience. Your faith that I'm worth waiting for. He raised her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles gently. I know I'm asking a lot. But I've never wanted anything the way I want a future with you. Jessie felt tears prick her eyes. A future doing what? Being what to each other? Everything. The word was quiet, but absolute. I want to marry you, Jessie. I want to build a life where we're partners in every sense. But I need to become the man who deserves that first. You already are that man. No. His voice was gentle but firm. Not yet. But I will be. Give me 3 months. She gave him 3 months. But she also started paying closer attention. Noticed how Min-jae never let her stay at his house overnight. Noticed how certain phone calls made him step away, voice dropping to a murmur. Noticed the way security cameras covered every angle of his property, how the locks on his doors were commercial grade, how he always parked facing the exit wherever they went. These were the habits of someone who expected danger. Who prepared for it? Jessie told herself she was overthinking. Min-jae was wealthy. Wealthy people had security concerns. It didn't mean. But then came the night she saw him fight. They'd gone to a late movie in Midtown. Walking back to the car, they'd passed an alley where a man was harassing a woman, backing her against the wall despite her protests. Jessie had pulled out her phone to call 911, but Min-jae had simply walked into the alley. Let her go, he'd said, voice calm. The man had turned, sizing up Min-jae with drunk belligerence. Mind your business. I'm making it my business. What happened next took maybe 10 seconds. The man swung. Min-jae moved not away, but into the attack, redirecting the momentum with a precision that spoke of serious training. The man ended up on the ground, face first, Min-jae's knee on his back, and the man's arm twisted at an angle that made him howl. Apologize to the lady, Min-jae said quietly. The man cursed. Min-jae applied pressure. The man screamed an apology. Min-jae released him, helped the woman call a cab, and walked back to Jessie like nothing had happened. But his eyes held something cold and practiced, something that had nothing to do with the gentle man who brought her flowers and opened doors. Where did you learn to do that? Jessie asked in the car, her voice shaking slightly. Seoul. Self-defense classes. That wasn't self-defense. She struggled for words. That was tactical. Military. I grew up in a rough neighborhood. You learn to protect yourself. Another non-answer. Another wall. Jessie looked at his hands on the steering wheel, elegant, careful hands that had just disabled a man twice his size without breaking a sweat. Who are you? She whispered. Min-jae glanced at her, and for just a moment, she saw something flicker in his expression. Fear, maybe. Or regret. I'm the man who loves you, he said finally. Everything else is just history. But history, Jessie was learning, had a way of refusing to stay buried. The proposal came on a Saturday evening, 2.5 months into their agreement. Min-jae took her to the botanical gardens, to a pavilion lit with paper lanterns and surrounded by cherry blossoms that had bloomed late that year, as if waiting for this moment. I know I promised you 3 months, Min-jae said, taking her hands. But I can't wait any more to ask you this. He knelt, and Jessie's breath stopped. Jessie Williams, you are the most principled, courageous, infuriating woman I've ever met. His smile was soft, vulnerable. You make me want to be better than I am. You make me believe I can be. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend my life proving I'm worthy of you? The ring was beautiful, a sapphire surrounded by diamonds, unusual and perfect. Jessie looked at it, at him, at the future he was offering. She should say no. Should demand answers first. Should protect herself the way her grandmother taught her. But love, it turned out, made cowards of even the most principled people. Yes, she heard herself say. Yes, I'll marry you. Min-jae stood, sliding the ring on her finger, and finally, he kissed her. It was gentle and desperate all at once, full of restraint and hunger, and Jessie understood in that moment why he'd waited. This kiss was a promise. A seal on something sacred. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Min-jae rested his forehead against hers. 2 weeks, he whispered. Give me 2 weeks to handle the last of my business obligations. Then I'll tell you everything. And then, if you'll still have me, we'll get married. 2 weeks, Jessie agreed. She had no idea those 2 weeks would destroy everything she thought she knew. The wedding planning was supposed to be simple. Courthouse ceremony, close friends only, Jessie had suggested. But Min-jae had quietly asked if she'd reconsider, just something small, but in a church, with his business associates present. It was important to him, he'd said, to honor her faith and her traditions properly. Plus, he'd added with that soft smile that undid her, I want the world to see me marry you. I want witnesses to the best decision I've ever made. So Jessie found herself at a small historic church in Grant Park on a Thursday afternoon, wearing her grandmother's refurbished wedding dress and holding a bouquet of white roses that Min-jae had chosen because he remembered her mentioning they were her grandmother's favorites. Keisha stood as her maid of honor, still skeptical but supportive. It's not too late to ask more questions, she whispered while adjusting Jessie's veil. I know who he is, Jessie said, and almost believed it. Do you? Because girl, some of these guests. What about them? Keisha glanced toward the sanctuary doors. They don't look like non-profit people. They look like they're strapped. Strapped? Armed, Jessie. I grew up in rough neighborhoods. I know what security looks like, and these men aren't regular security. Jessie's stomach tightened, but she pushed the feeling down. Min-jae's wealthy. Wealthy people have protection. If you say so. Keisha squeezed her hand. I just hope you know what you're signing up for. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Min-jae stood at the altar in a tailored black suit, his expression when he saw her walk down the aisle making her forget every doubt. He looked at her like she was a miracle, like he couldn't quite believe she was real and choosing him. Pastor Williams, no relation but someone her grandmother had known, led them through traditional vows. When Min-jae said, I do, his voice was steady and sure. When Jessie repeated the words, she felt them settle into her bones like truth. You may kiss your bride. Min-jae cupped her face with both hands, gentle and reverent, and kissed her like a promise he intended to keep. The small gathering applauded, and for a moment, everything felt exactly right. Then Jessie turned to walk back down the aisle, and she really looked at the guests. Keisha was right. These men didn't fit. Oh, some did, colleagues from the foundation, a few people she recognized from board meetings. But scattered among them were men in expensive suits who watched the room more than the ceremony. Men who stood rather than sat. Men whose eyes tracked movement with predatory awareness. And in the back row, a man with a scar running from his eyebrow to his cheek, who made brief eye contact with Min-jae and gave a slight nod that looked like a report. Like confirmation of something completed. Jessie's hand tightened on Min-jae's arm. He glanced at her, and something in his expression shifted when he saw where she was looking. After, he murmured. I'll explain everything after. The reception was held at a private room in a hotel downtown. It was elegant and intimate, nothing extravagant, exactly what Jessie had wanted. But she couldn't relax. Couldn't stop watching the guests who didn't belong, noticing the way they deferred to Min-jae, the way he moved through the room accepting their quiet congratulations like a king accepting fealty from his court. Congratulations, Hyungnim, one man said in Korean, bowing slightly. Jessie caught it because she'd been teaching herself basic Korean as a surprise for Min-jae. Hyungnim, a term of respect, but more than that. a term that acknowledged hierarchy, leadership, authority. She watched Min-jae respond in Korean, his voice taking on a different quality, more commanding, more natural. This was who he was in that language, she realized. Not the careful, measured man who spoke English like a second skin, but someone who expected obedience and received it. Jessie. She turned to find Keisha at her elbow, champagne in hand but untouched. I need you to be honest with me. Do you know what Min-jae really does? He runs a non-profit. That man in the corner with the tattoos on his hands? Those are Yakuza markings. I had a cousin who got mixed up with that world. I know what I'm seeing. Yakuza is Japanese. Min-jae is Korean. Fine. Korean organized crime then. Same difference. These men aren't here for a wedding, Jessie. They're here because their boss got married. The word landed like a punch. Boss. Not colleague. Not partner. Boss. You don't know that, Jessie said weakly. Look at them. Really look. Keisha's voice was urgent but quiet. And then ask yourself if this is the life you signed up for. Jessie didn't want to look. But she did. And once she started really seeing, she couldn't stop. The way the men positioned themselves around the room, strategic, covering exits. The way they moved in coordinated patterns, like trained units. The way they all wore their jackets despite the warmth, because jackets hid weapons. The way they watched Min-jae for signals, for approval, for orders. And Min-jae, her husband of 3 hours, moved through it all with the ease of long practice. This was his world. Not the foundation, not the charity galas. This. I need air, Jessie said abruptly. She walked out onto the hotel's rooftop terrace, the Atlanta skyline spreading before her in the dusk. Behind her, she heard the door open and close. I promised you answers. Min-jae's voice was quiet. I had hoped to deliver them somewhere more private, but I understand you need them now. Jessie didn't turn around. Those men in there. They're criminals, aren't they? Silence. Min-jae. She forced herself to face him. Tell me the truth. All of it. Right now. He looked at her for a long moment, and she saw him make a decision. Saw the walls come down, the careful performance end. Yes, he said simply. They're criminals. And so am I. The words hung in the air between them, sharp and irrevocable. I'm what Americans would call a mafia boss, Min-jae continued, his voice steady. I run an organization that controls significant portions of Atlanta's Korean and Asian communities. Protection, smuggling, gambling. We stay out of drugs and trafficking, but everything else, yes. That's who I am. Who I was. Jessie felt the world tilt. The foundation is real. Legitimate. Every dollar goes where I say it goes. I built it because I wanted to do something that mattered, something that would outlast the other parts of my life. He took a step closer but didn't touch her. Everything I told you about my parents was true. They did die when I was young. What I didn't tell you is how they were killed by a rival gang. I was raised by their organization, groomed to take over. By the time I was 25, I was running everything. How old are you now? 36. 11 years. 11 years of blood and violence and crimes he was carefully not detailing. Why didn't you tell me? Jessie's voice cracked. Why let me fall in love with a lie? Because I wanted out. Min-jae's composure finally fractured. I've wanted out for years, but you don't just walk away from this life. People disappear for trying. But then I met you and you looked at me like I was good. Like I was worth something beyond fear and power. And I thought, if I could just become that man you saw, if I could just burn down who I was and build something better. You can't burn down the past, Min-jae. It doesn't work like that. I know. But I tried. He pulled out his phone, pulling up what looked like legal documents. These are dissolution papers. I've spent the last 6 months transferring control, paying off debts, cutting ties. As of yesterday, I'm officially out. The organization has new leadership. I'm done. Jessie looked at the documents, then at him. Just like that? You just quit. It cost me everything I built. Every connection, every ounce of power. I gave it all up. His voice was raw now. Because you wouldn't marry a criminal. And I would rather be nothing than be something that makes you look at me the way you're looking at me right now. How am I looking at you? Like I'm a stranger. Like you don't know me. I don't know you. The words exploded out of her. Everything I thought I knew was a performance. The gentleman who brought me flowers, who waited for marriage, who respected my faith, was any of it real? All of it was real. Min-jae closed the distance between them, and Jessie saw tears in his eyes for the first time. I've never been more myself than when I'm with you. The violence, the crime, that was the performance. That was me being who I was taught to be. But with you, I got to be who I wanted to be. I can't, Jessie pressed her hands to her face. I can't process this. I need time. We just got married. I know. I was there. But the man I married, I'm not sure he exists. He does. Min-jae's voice was desperate now. He exists because you made him possible. Jessie, please. I understand you're angry, and you have every right to be. But don't walk away from this. From us. You walked away from the truth for 6 months. You let me plan a wedding, make vows, bind my life to yours, all while hiding who you really were. Jessie lowered her hands, meeting his eyes. How am I supposed to trust anything you say now? By letting me prove it. He reached for her hands, and this time she let him take them. I know words are cheap. I know I've destroyed your faith in me. But give me a chance to earn it back. Stay. See who I am without that world. See if the man you fell in love with is still here when everything else is stripped away. Jessie wanted to pull away. Wanted to call Keisha and leave and annul this marriage before it really began. Her grandmother's voice was screaming in her head about the sanctity of marriage, about commitment, but also about wisdom, about protecting herself from men who dealt in darkness. Those men inside, she said quietly. Did they kill people? Min-jae didn't flinch. Some of them. Yes. Did you? A pause. Then, yes. The word was simple and devastating. Jessie felt something inside her break. She pulled her hands free. I need you to take me home. To my apartment. Not yours. Mine. Jessie. Please. I need space to think. To pray. To figure out if I can even be married to someone whose. She couldn't finish the sentence. Min-jae's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Of course. Whatever you need. They left the reception without ceremony, without explanation. Jessie was vaguely aware of Keisha trying to catch her eye, of confused murmurs from guests, but she kept her eyes forward as Min-jae led her to his car. The drive was silent. When they reached her apartment building, Min-jae finally spoke. I love you. That was never a lie. And I will wait as long as it takes for you to decide if you can forgive me. Jessie unbuckled her seatbelt, still wearing her grandmother's dress, still wearing his ring. I don't know if I can. I don't know if love is enough when the foundation is this broken. Then I'll build a new foundation. One truth at a time. She got out of the car without responding and didn't look back as she walked into her building. Inside her apartment, Jessie finally let herself cry. Great, heaving sobs that came from somewhere deep and wounded. She'd been so careful. So principled. She'd waited, tested, prayed. And still she'd been deceived. Her phone buzzed constantly. Keisha, Min-jae, people from the wedding wondering what happened. She ignored them all, curling up on her couch still in her wedding dress, watching the sapphire on her finger catch the light. She should take it off. Should call a lawyer. Should. But she couldn't move. Could only sit there as night fell, replaying every conversation, every moment, looking for the lies she'd missed. Around midnight, her phone buzzed with a text from a number she didn't recognize. Asterisk Mrs. Choi. We need to talk about your husband. Asterisk. Jessie stared at it, heart pounding. She should delete it. Ignore it. Instead, she typed, who is this? Asterisk someone who can tell you the truth about what Min-jae really did. And what he's still capable of. Meet me tomorrow. The address below. Come alone, asterisk. An address in West End followed. Jessie knew the area, rough, the kind of place her grandmother would have forbidden her from visiting. She shouldn't go. It was probably a trap, or a rival trying to stir up trouble. Min-jae had said he was out, but clearly there were people who didn't believe that. Or didn't want to accept it. Why should I trust you? She typed. Asterisk you shouldn't. But you should know who you married. 2 p.m. I'll wait 1 hour, asterisk. Jessie set the phone down, hands shaking. Every instinct said to ignore it. But if there was more truth to uncover, didn't she deserve to know it all? She fell asleep on the couch as dawn broke, still in her wedding dress, and dreamed of her grandmother shaking her head, saying, "Baby girl, sometimes the only way forward is through the fire." The next morning, Jessie woke to 17 missed calls from Min-jae and a text from Keisha, coming over. "Don't try to stop me, She arrived 15 minutes later with coffee and bagels, took one look at Jessie still in her wedding dress, and set everything down to pull her into a hug. "I'm so sorry," Keisha whispered. "I should have pushed harder. Made you see. You tried." "I didn't want to listen." Jessie pulled back, accepting the coffee. "I need to tell you something." She showed Keisha the texts from the unknown number. "Absolutely not," Keisha said immediately. "This is a setup. You cannot go meet some random person in West End. I need to know what else he's hiding. Then ask him directly. Or hire a private investigator. But don't walk into an obvious trap. What if it's not a trap? What if it's someone who can help me understand?" "Understand what? That your husband is a criminal? You already know that." Keisha's voice was sharp with worry. "Jessie, please. I know you're hurting, but this is dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous." Jessie stood, finally unzipping the dress and letting it pool at her feet. "My marriage started on lies. I need to know the full extent of what I've gotten into. Then at least let me come with you." The text said alone. "Which is exactly why you shouldn't go." Keisha grabbed her hands. "Please. Talk to Min-jae first. Give him a chance to explain everything. Then decide if you need other sources." It was good advice. Reasonable advice. But Jessie was tired of being reasonable. Tired of trusting people who lied to her. She needed truth from someone who had no reason to protect her feelings. "I'm going," she said quietly. "But I'll keep my phone on. Location sharing enabled. If I'm not back by 4, call the police." "Jessie. I need this, Keisha. I need to do something that feels like taking control." Keisha looked at her for a long moment, then sighed. "Fine. But I'm tracking your location every minute. And if anything feels wrong, you run. Promise me." "I promise." At 1:45, Jessie parked her car 3 blocks from the address, in a visible, relatively populated area. She walked the remaining distance, hyper-aware of every person, every sound. The building was an old warehouse, partially converted to artist studios. The address pointed to a unit on the 2nd floor. Jessie climbed external metal stairs, her heart pounding. This was stupid. Keisha was right. She should turn around. But she knocked anyway. The door opened to reveal a Korean woman in her 50s, elegant despite casual clothes, with eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. "Mrs. Choi," the woman said in lightly accented English. "Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. Who are you?" "My name is Park Sun-hee. I was Min-jae's mother's best friend. And I need to tell you what kind of man you married." Jessie hesitated, then stepped inside. The space was sparse, a table, 2 chairs, nothing else. Sun-hee gestured to a seat and Jessie took it, perching on the edge like a bird ready to flee. "You think you know the worst," Sun-hee began, sitting across from her. "But there are things Min-jae would never tell you. Things he's probably convinced himself don't matter anymore. Tell me." Sun-hee pulled out a folder from a bag under the table and slid it across. Jessie opened it to find photographs, documents, newspaper clippings. 5 years ago, Sun-hee said quietly, there was a territorial dispute. A rival organization tried to move into Min-jae's territory. He responded by burning down 3 of their businesses. 12 people died in those fires. Jessie's hands shook as she looked at the photos. Burned buildings. Body bags. Min-jae didn't set the fires himself, Sun-hee continued. But he gave the order. He's very good at keeping his hands technically clean while orchestrating violence. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know what he's capable of. Sun-hee leaned forward. I loved Min-jae's mother like a sister. When she and her husband were killed, I tried to take Min-jae in, raise him differently. But the organization wouldn't let me. They needed him to be what they'd groomed him to be. And he became that more effectively than anyone expected. He says he's out now. That he's given it all up. Sun-hee's expression was sad. Maybe he has. Maybe he hasn't. Men like Min-jae don't leave this world easily. There are always strings, always debts. And even if he's legally out, he still carries the weight of what he's done. Those 12 people don't come back because he's decided to be better. Jessie felt sick. Why tell me now? Why not before the wedding? I didn't know he was getting married until yesterday. I still have a few contacts who tell me things. Sunhee's voice softened. I'm not trying to destroy your marriage. But you should make your choice with full knowledge. If you stay with him, you need to accept all of who he is, not just the version he wants you to see. He told me he killed people. He was honest about that. Did he tell you how many? Did he explain what he ordered done to people who crossed him? Did he mention the protection rackets, the way he squeezed small business owners for money they couldn't afford? Sunhee pushed another set of papers across. These are statements from some of his victims. Read them. Then decide if love is enough. Jessie stared at the papers, unable to bring herself to touch them. What do you want from me? Nothing. I just want you to see clearly. Sunhee stood. Keep the folder. Study it. And ask yourself if you can really build a life with a man whose foundation is built on other people's suffering, even if he's trying to build something different now. You don't think people can change? I think people can choose different paths forward. But they can't erase where they've been. And sometimes, the past doesn't let go easily. Sunhee moved to the door. You have my number now. If you need anything information, help getting away, call me. I failed Min-jae's mother. I won't fail you. Then she was gone, leaving Jessie alone with a folder full of horrors and a choice she wasn't ready to make. Jessie sat in her car for 20 minutes after leaving the warehouse, the folder on her passenger seat like a living thing. She could feel it there, demanding attention. Finally, she drove home, went inside, and spread the contents across her kitchen table. Photographs, business ledgers, testimonies from people whose lives Min-jae had destroyed. A restaurant owner who'd been hospitalized after refusing protection payments. A woman whose brother had disappeared after stealing from one of Min-jae's gambling operations. Evidence of money laundering, of violence orchestrated through layers of deniability. And through it all, Min-jae's name, or rather his absence, everything carefully designed so he was never directly implicated, always one step removed from the actual violence. That was almost worse, somehow. The calculation of it. The intelligence applied to cruelty. Jessie's phone rang. Min-jae. She stared at his name on the screen until it went to voicemail. He called again. And again. The fourth time, she answered. Jessie. His voice was thick with relief. Thank God. I've been terrified that something happened to you. Nothing happened to me. I just got some education about my husband. Silence. Then, what does that mean? It means I spent the afternoon learning exactly how many people you've hurt. 12 deaths in one incident alone. Does that number sound familiar? She heard him exhale slowly. Who did you talk to? Does it matter? Yes. Because whoever it was gave you partial truth designed to hurt you. There's context. Context. Jessie laughed, but it came out broken. Is there context that makes burning people alive acceptable? Is there context that justifies breaking someone's bones for being late on a payment? No. His voice was quiet. There's no context that makes any of it acceptable. I did terrible things, Jessie. I'm not denying that. But those fires, I didn't order them. One of my captains went rogue, trying to impress me. When I found out, I removed him from the organization. Removed him how? Another pause. I don't think you want to know. I want to know everything now. No more protecting me from the truth. I killed him. The words were flat, emotionless. He endangered innocent people, started a war I didn't want, and made me responsible for 12 deaths. So I killed him myself. No delegation. That was my rule. If I ordered someone's death, I did it with my own hands. Jessie felt bile rise in her throat. How many? How many what? How many people did you kill directly? Not order. Dear self. The silence stretched so long she thought the connection had dropped. 7, Min-jae finally said. All of them people within the organization who betrayed it or endangered others. I never killed civilians. I never killed anyone who wasn't part of that world. As if that makes it better. It doesn't. I know it doesn't. His voice cracked. Jessie, I can't undo any of it. I can't bring those people back or erase the pain I caused. All I can do is spend the rest of my life trying to create more good than harm. That's why the foundation exists. That's why I'm out. Are you, though? Really out? Yes. Then explain this. Jessie pulled up another document Sun he had included. This is dated 3 weeks ago. A payment from one of your old businesses to an offshore account. That's severance. I promised compensation to people I was leaving behind. It's all legitimate. My lawyers structured everything to be legal. Your lawyers. Jessie felt hysterical laughter bubbling up. You have lawyers who specialize in making crime look legitimate. I had lawyers who did that. Now I have lawyers who help me be legitimate. Min-jae's tone shifted, becoming more urgent. Jessie, I understand you're angry. I understand you feel betrayed. But please, let me come over. Let me show you the dissolution papers, the financial records. Let me prove I'm telling the truth about being out. I don't want you here. Then come to my house. Bring Keisha if you want. Bring whoever makes you feel safe. Just please, don't make decisions based on incomplete information from someone who has their own agenda. And what's your agenda? To keep my wife. To build the life we talked about. To be the man you believed I was. Jessie closed her eyes. What if that man doesn't exist? What if it was always a fiction? Then why do I feel more like myself with you than I ever did in that other life? His voice was raw now, desperate. Jessie, the foundation isn't a cover. It's the only honest thing I built. And every moment with you has been the only time I felt clean. Don't take that away from me. Please. She wanted to hang up. Wanted to pack a bag and disappear somewhere he couldn't find her. But beneath the anger and betrayal, she could still feel the pull of what they'd had, or what she'd thought they'd had. I'll come over tomorrow, she heard herself say. Afternoon. And I'm bringing Keisha. Thank you. Thank you, Jessie. She hung up before he could say he loved her. She couldn't hear that right now. Couldn't bear the weight of it. That night, Jessie barely slept. She kept thinking about the version of Min-jae she'd fallen in love with, the patient man who'd courted her with such careful respect, who'd never pushed, never demanded. Had that man been real? Or just a mask worn by someone who knew how to manipulate people into trusting him? But then she remembered moments that seemed too genuine to be performance. The way his hands had trembled slightly when he proposed. The reverence in his voice when he talked about her grandmother. The fear in his eyes when he'd confessed his truth on the rooftop. People who manipulated didn't look afraid. They looked confident, controlled. Min-jae had looked terrified of losing her. Keisha picked her up the next afternoon, having insisted on driving. You need someone thinking clearly, she'd said. And right now, that's not you. I'm thinking plenty clearly. You're thinking with your heart, which is different. Keisha glanced at her. Are you really ready to forgive him? Because if you're not, we need to be talking to lawyers, not visiting his house. I don't know what I'm ready for. I just need more information. More information or confirmation of what you want to believe? Jessie didn't answer. Min-jae's house looked different somehow, though nothing had physically changed. Now she saw it through new eyes, the security, the cameras, the isolated location. This was a fortress, not a home. He answered the door immediately, like he'd been watching for them. He looked terrible, rumpled clothes, dark circles under his eyes, hair uncombed. Nothing like the controlled, polished man she'd known. Thank you for coming, he said quietly, stepping back to let them in. Both of you. Keisha gave him a look that could have cut glass, but said nothing. Min-jae led them to his dining room, where papers were spread across the table in organized stacks. This is everything, he said. Financial records, legal documents, correspondence with my former associates. It's all here. Jessie approached the table slowly, Keisha at her side. Together they started going through documents. Tax returns for the foundation showing every donation tracked and properly allocated. Contracts with new leadership of his former organization, clearly delineating separation. Bank statements showing massive transfers out of his accounts, payments, she realized, to buy his way out. It cost me about $40 million, Min-jae said quietly. To extract myself cleanly. To compensate people for lost revenue, to settle debts, to buy silence about certain operations that would implicate others if exposed. I'm not poor, but I'm significantly less wealthy than I was 6 months ago. You think that absolves you? Keisha asked sharply. That spending money makes up for the lives you destroyed? No. Nothing absolves me. Min-jae met her eyes steadily. I'm not asking for absolution. I'm asking for a chance to do better going forward. Why should we believe you'll actually stay out? Keisha pressed. What's to stop you from getting pulled back in when things get complicated? This. Min-jae pulled out another document, and this time his hands shook slightly. This is a full confession. Everything I did, everyone involved, every crime I can remember committing or ordering. It's sealed with my lawyer, with instructions to deliver it to federal prosecutors if I'm ever implicated in organized crime again. If I go back, I go to prison. For life, probably. Jessie stared at the document. You'd turn yourself in? I'd have no choice. The confession is time-stamped, legally witnessed. If anything happens that suggests I'm involved in criminal activity again, it becomes public. He looked at Jessie. That's my insurance. Not just to keep others from dragging me back, but to keep myself from being tempted. You're insane, Keisha said. You're one bad situation away from destroying your entire life. My life was already destroyed. I'm trying to build a new one. Min-jae's voice was steady. And I'm willing to risk everything to prove that's real. Jessie picked up the sealed document, feeling its weight. This was more than words. This was commitment that could cost him everything. Show me the rest, she said quietly. The foundation records. Everything. They spent 3 hours going through papers. Min-jae answered every question, no matter how uncomfortable. He showed them the foundation's financial audits, completely clean. Showed them his personal finances, no hidden accounts, no suspicious transactions. Showed them correspondence with former associates that made clear his departure was permanent. There are people who don't believe I'm really out, he admitted. Some who think I'm just consolidating power differently. But I don't care what they think. I care what you think. He was looking at Jessie when he said it, and she saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the strain of maintaining composure while his entire life hung in balance. I need time, she finally said. It's too much to process. I understand. But I need you to understand something too. Jessie stood, facing him directly. I didn't marry the man who ran a criminal organization. I married the man who brought me flowers and respected my faith and made me laugh. If that man was real, I want to know him. But if he was just a role you played, he was real. Min-jae stood too, careful not to come too close. He's who I am when I'm not performing strength. When I don't have to be dangerous to survive. Then that's who I need to see. Not explanations or documents or grand gestures. Just truth. Consistent truth. Every day. I can do that. Can you? Jessie's voice wavered. Because the lying came so easily to you. The compartmentalization. How do I know it won't happen again? Because I'm not compartmentalizing anymore. Everything is exposed now. My worst actions, my greatest regrets. It's all in that confession, and you can read it if you want. There's nothing left to hide. I don't want to read it, Jessie said quietly. I don't want those images in my head. But I need you to understand, trust isn't rebuilt with documents. It's rebuilt through time and consistency. And I don't know how much time I can give you before I break completely. However long it takes. Min-jae's voice was fierce. I'll wait however long you need. I won't pressure you. Won't demand anything. Just please don't leave. Don't annul this. Give me a chance to prove that what we had was real. Keisha cleared her throat. I think we should go. Jessie needs to think. Min-jae nodded, walking them to the door. As Jessie passed him, he caught her hand gently. I love you, he said quietly. That was never part of the performance. That's the realest thing in my life. Jessie squeezed his hand once, then let go without responding. In the car, Keisha was quiet for several minutes before saying, he's either the best liar I've ever seen, or he's actually in love with you. Does it matter which, if the result is the same? Of course it matters. One means he's using you. The other means he's just monumentally fucked up, but trying to be better. Keisha glanced at her. Which do you believe? I don't know anymore. I thought I knew him, but I was wrong. So how can I trust my judgment now? You can't. Not yet. But you can trust your instincts over time. Keisha pulled into Jessie's parking lot. Watch him. See if his actions match his words. People can lie with language, but behavior tells truth. Jessie went inside and sat in the silence of her apartment, Min-jae's ring heavy on her finger. She should take it off. Should at least move it to her right hand, signaling the relationship was on hold. But she couldn't bring herself to do it. Instead, she pulled out her grandmother's Bible, the one she'd inherited. Opened it to the passages about forgiveness, about second chances, about redemption. But also the passages about wisdom. About testing spirits. About not being unequally yoked. Was she unequally yoked to a man whose past was soaked in violence? Or was she exactly where she needed to be, offering grace to someone desperately trying to change? Her phone buzzed. Min-jae. I know you need space. But I want you to know I'm going to therapy. Real therapy with someone who specializes in helping people leave violent lives. I want to process this properly. Want to understand how I became who I was and how to be someone different. Jessie stared at the message. Therapy. That was unexpected. Real. How long have you been planning this? She typed. Since the day I proposed. I knew I couldn't just decide to be better. I needed help learning how. Another message followed. I'm not asking you to be my therapist or fix me. I'm taking responsibility for my own healing. But I wanted you to know I'm serious about change. Jessie felt something in her chest loosen slightly. This wasn't a man making promises to win her back. This was someone actually doing the work, with or without her approval. Thank you for telling me, she typed back. Can I ask you something? Yes. Are you safe? Emotionally, I mean. Do you have support? The question made her throat tight. Even now, even after everything, he was worried about her well-being. I have Keisha. And my church, Good. You shouldn't go through this alone, That night, Jessie called her pastor's wife, Sister Michelle, and asked if they could talk. She found herself sitting in the woman's kitchen an hour later, pouring out the whole story over tea. Lord have mercy, Sister Michelle said when Jessie finished. That's a lot. I don't know what to do. My vows were sacred. But they were based on lies. Were they though? Sister Michelle leaned forward. You vowed to love him for better or worse, in sickness and health. Well, this is the worse. This is the sickness. The question isn't whether you were lied to, you were. The question is whether you believe his repentance is real and whether you can find it in yourself to forgive. How do I know if it's real? Time. Consistency. A changed life. Sister Michelle squeezed her hand. But Jessie, you also need to be honest with yourself about something else. Can you live with his past? Not excuse it, not forget it, but accept that this is who he was and move forward anyway. Because that's what forgiveness requires. Seeing the full truth and choosing love despite it. I don't know if I'm that strong. Forgiveness isn't about strength. It's about grace. And grace is a gift, you don't have to give it. But if you decide not to, you need to be clear-eyed about what you're walking away from. Jessie went home with more questions than answers. But over the next 2 weeks, she watched. Min-jae texted her every morning, not demands to talk, just simple messages. Good morning. I hope today is kind to you. Thinking of you. No pressure. Just wanted you to know I'm here. He sent her the name and number of his therapist, offering to sign a release so Jessie could verify he was actually attending sessions. He didn't send gifts or make grand gestures. He just existed. Consistently. Honestly. And slowly, against her better judgment, Jessie felt the anger start to shift into something else. Not forgiveness yet. But possibility. 3 weeks after the wedding, she called him. Can we talk? She asked. In person? Whenever you want. His voice was careful, hopeful. My place or neutral ground? Your place. I need to see where you live without the performance. Okay. When? Tonight. 7. She arrived exactly on time to find the house different. The formal perfection had been disrupted, books on tables, a coffee mug in the sink, signs of actual living. Min-jae answered the door in jeans and a t-shirt, no shoes, hair still damp from a shower. Hi, he said quietly. Hi. He led her to the living room, where a simple dinner was laid out, nothing fancy, just Korean food he'd clearly made himself. I wasn't sure if you'd want to eat, he said. But I thought, I don't know. Normal things feel important. They sat, ate in relative silence. The food was good, and Jessie found herself relaxing slightly in the domestic simplicity of it. How's therapy? She finally asked. Hard. Min-jae set down his chopsticks. My therapist specializes in moral injury, people who've done things they're ashamed of. Veterans mostly, but also people like me. She's helping me understand how I compartmentalized, how I justified my actions, how to sit with guilt without being destroyed by it. Are you? Being destroyed by it? Some days. But she says that's part of the process. Feeling the weight of what I did instead of pushing it away. He met her eyes. I'm also working through my anger toward the people who raised me. The organization. Understanding that I was groomed into this life doesn't excuse my choices, but it does explain them. Jessie nodded slowly. I've been seeing Sister Michelle. Talking through everything. I'm glad. You need support too. She asked me if I can live with your past. I've been thinking about that a lot. Min-jae went very still. And? I don't know. I keep trying to reconcile the man I fell in love with and the man who did those things, and I can't make them fit in my head. They're the same person. Min-jae's voice was quiet, but steady. I'm not two people, Jessie. I'm one person who did terrible things and is trying to do better. And I understand if that's not enough for you. If you need someone without blood on their hands. Everyone has something, Jessie said. Maybe not literal blood, but we're all broken somehow. My grandmother used to say that's why we need grace. Because none of us deserve it, but we need it anyway. Do I deserve yours? Jessie looked at him, really looked. Saw the exhaustion, the hope, the fear. Saw someone carrying enormous weight and still standing. I don't know about deserve, she said slowly. But I think I want to try. To see if we can build something real from this wreckage. She saw the exact moment hope bloomed in his expression, then the immediate effort to temper it. What does trying look like? He asked carefully. Slowly. We start over, kind of. Dating, but as married people. You tell me truth, even when it's hard. I work on forgiveness, even when it hurts. And we see if the foundation can be rebuilt. I can do that. Min-jae's voice was thick. Jessie, I don't. She held up a hand. Don't make promises. Just show me. Consistently. That's what I need. He nodded, and Jessie saw him swallow hard, fighting emotion. They spent the rest of the evening talking, really talking, without the careful editing that had characterized their early relationship. Min-jae told her about his first kill, about the nightmares he still had. Jessie told him about the rage she'd felt, the betrayal that still lived in her chest like a wound. It wasn't comfortable, but it was honest. When she left that night, Min-jae walked her to her car. Thank you, he said quietly, for not giving up on us. I haven't decided not to give up, Jessie corrected. I've decided to try. There's a difference. I'll take trying. I'll take any chance you'll give me. He didn't try to kiss her, didn't touch her beyond a brief squeeze of her hand. And somehow that restraint meant more than any passionate gesture could have. Over the next month, they fell into a rhythm. Dinner twice a week. Phone calls every few days. Slow, careful rebuilding of trust. Min-jae was unfailingly honest, even when the truth was uncomfortable. When Jessie asked about specific incidents from his past, he answered without deflection, then usually ended up looking haunted for hours afterward. You don't have to tell me everything, she said once, watching him struggle. Yes, I do. You deserve to know who you're choosing. All of me, not just the good parts. The foundation work continued. Jessie watched how Min-jae interacted with program coordinators, with grant applicants, with the kids they served. He was patient, kind, generous. Nothing in his behavior suggested violence or cruelty. It's like you're two different people, she said one evening. I was. For a long time. Min-jae set down his pen, meeting her eyes. In my old life, I had to be hard, unforgiving. Every sign of weakness got exploited. But with the foundation with you, I got to be softer. And the more I practiced softness, the more it felt like coming home to myself. Who were you before the organization? As a kid, his expression turned distant. Quiet. I liked books. Used to hide in the library to avoid gang business. My mother would find me and say I was too gentle for this world. He smiled sadly. She was right. But the world didn't care. You're still gentle. With me. With the kids in our programs. Because you made space for that part of me to survive. 6 weeks after the wedding, Jessie invited Min-jae to her church. He came despite obvious nervousness, sitting beside her during the service and standing for hymns even though he didn't know the words. Pastor Williams preached on redemption, pure coincidence, but it felt like divine timing. The beauty of grace, Pastor Williams said, voice booming through the sanctuary, is that it doesn't ask if you deserve it. Grace says, you are broken, you have failed, you have sinned, and you are still loved. Still worthy of a new beginning. Jessie felt Min-jae's hand find hers, squeezing tight. After the service, several church members approached them. Some were warm, welcoming Min-jae. Others were politely distant, clearly having heard rumors. Jessie watched Min-jae handle both with equal grace, never defensive, never demanding acceptance. That was hard for you, she said as they walked to the car. Yes, but important. He opened her door. If I'm going to be part of your life, I need to be part of your world. Your faith. Your community. Even if they judge you? Especially then. Because they should judge me. I should be held accountable. He smiled slightly. Besides, facing uncomfortable truth is what therapy is teaching me to do. They went for coffee after, and Jessie found herself laughing at a story Min-jae told about his early days running the foundation, when he'd been so awkward at fundraising that he'd accidentally insulted a major donor. You, she said between giggles. You're the smoothest person I know. Now. But I had to learn. Being good at violence doesn't translate to being good at nonprofit management. His smile faded slightly. Though I suppose some skills do transfer. Reading people. Strategy. Understanding power dynamics. The reminder of his past should have killed the mood. But somehow it didn't. They were learning to exist in the both the past and the present, both the pain and the hope. 2 months after the wedding, Jessie finally spent the night at Min-jae's house. Not for intimacy, they'd agreed to wait until she felt ready, but just to be together. She woke up to find him already awake, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite name. What? She asked, voice rough with sleep. I'm memorizing this. You. Here. In case I wake up and discover it was a dream. You're sentimental in the mornings. Only with you. They made breakfast together, moving around the kitchen in surprising synchronicity. Min-jae was teaching her to make proper Korean breakfast rice, soup, banchan, and Jessie was teaching him her grandmother's biscuit recipe. These are incredible, he said, biting into a biscuit. You've been holding out on me. They're sacred. My grandmother only taught me because I promised to make them for my own family someday. Jessie paused, the weight of that word, family, suddenly heavy. Do you want kids? Min-jae set down the biscuit carefully. I do. But I'd understand if you didn't. If you couldn't imagine bringing children into a life connected to my past. Your past isn't who you are now. It's still part of my story. Any children we have would carry that legacy. They'd also carry strength. Resilience. The courage to change. Jessie reached across the table, taking his hand. I'm not saying I'm ready now. But someday, yes. I'd want that with you. She watched emotions flicker across his face too fast to name, finally settling on something that looked like wonder. Someday, he repeated quietly. I can work with someday. That afternoon, Jessie met Sun-hee again, this time by choice. She'd called the woman and asked if they could talk, somewhere public. They met at a coffee shop in Virginia Highland. I didn't expect to hear from you again, Sun-hee said, studying Jessie over green tea. I wanted to thank you for telling me the truth, even though it was hard to hear. But you're still with him. I am. Because I've seen him trying to change. Actually doing the work, not just promising. Jessie met Sun-hee's eyes. You said you couldn't save him when he was young. But maybe he's saving himself now. Sun-hee's expression was complicated, hope and skepticism at war. I want to believe that. Min-jae's mother would have wanted that for him. Tell me about her. Please. I want to understand where he came from. So Sun-hee told stories. About Min-jae's mother, who'd been fierce and loving, trapped in a world she hadn't chosen. About young Min-jae, who'd been sensitive and bookish, who'd cried the first time he saw violence. About the organization slowly hardening him, teaching him to bury gentleness as weakness. The last time I saw him, he was 17, son, he said quietly. I told him he didn't have to be what they wanted him to be. He looked at me and said, yes, I do. It's the only way to survive. I think he believed that for a very long time. What changed? You did. Sunhee's smile was sad. Or rather, meeting you showed him there was another way to survive. One that didn't require being dangerous. He's still dangerous. In some ways. Of course. You don't erase that training. But dangerous and violent aren't the same thing. He can be capable of protection without being a threat. Sunhee paused. Do you feel safe with him? Jessie thought about it carefully. Yes. Even knowing what he's capable of, even knowing what he's done, I feel safe with him. Is that foolish? I don't know. But I hope not. For both your sakes. Sunhee reached across the table, squeezing Jessie's hand briefly. If you ever need anything, information, help, just someone who understands his world, call me. Not as someone working against him. As someone who wants both of you to be okay. Thank you. As Jessie left the coffee shop, her phone rang. Min-jae. Hey, she answered. I was just thinking about you. Good thoughts, I hope. His voice was strained. What's wrong? Can you come to my house? Now? Something's happened. Fear spiked through her. Are you okay? I'm fine. But I need to tell you something in person. Please. She drove faster than she should have, scenarios spiraling through her mind. He'd been pulled back in. Someone was threatening him. The past had caught up in some terrible way. Min-jae met her at the door, pulling her inside quickly. I'm sorry for scaring you. You're not in danger. But this couldn't wait. He led her to his office, where a man Jessie didn't recognize sat in one of the chairs. He was older, Korean, with hard eyes that tracked her movement. This is Kim Dae-jung, Min-jae said quietly. He was my second in command. He came to tell me something I thought you should hear directly. Dae-jung stood, bowing slightly to Jessie with respect that seemed genuine. When he spoke, his English was rough but understandable. Mrs. Choi. I come because I respect what Min-jae trying to do. Getting out. Building something better. He glanced at Min-jae. But there is problem. Park Jin-soo, he was captain under Min-jae, he not believe Min-jae really out. He think it is trick. He planning to test this. Jessie's stomach dropped. Test how? He will make situation where Min-jae must choose. Stay out and risk looking weak, or come back and protect what he built. Dae-jung's expression was grim. Jin-soo controls territory now. He talks about expanding to Min-jae's foundation work. Says he will make donations, become public supporter. Force connection that Min-jae cannot escape. Why are you telling us this? Jessie asked. Because I helped Min-jae build his exit. I vouch for him when others doubt. And I owe his mother, Dae-jung's voice caught slightly. I owe her a debt I can never repay. This is small payment. Min-jae was standing very still, face unreadable. What do you need from me? He asked Dae-jung. Nothing. I handled Jin-soo. Make clear that you are protected, that testing you means dealing with me. But I wanted you to know it is happening. In case things become complicated. Protected how? Jessie demanded. More violence? That's not the answer. Sometimes it is the only answer people like Jin-soo understand, Dae-jung said, not unkindly. But you do not worry. This is internal matter. No one touches Min-jae. No one touches you. This I promise. After Dae-jung left, Jessie sank into a chair, hands shaking. This is what the rest of our lives looks like? Always looking over our shoulders? Always waiting for someone to drag you back in? No. Min-jae knelt in front of her, taking her hands. Dae-jung is handling it. In 6 months, maybe a year, everyone will accept I'm really out. This is just the last pushback. Growing pains. Growing pains. Jessie laughed bitterly. You're talking about potential violence like it's a business adjustment. Because in that world, it is. But it's not our world anymore. Jessie, look at me. He waited until she met his eyes. I won't go back. No matter what Jin-soo does, no matter what threats are made. I walked away and I'm staying away. That's not negotiable. Even if it costs you? Costs us. Especially then. His grip tightened. I'd rather lose everything than lose who I'm becoming. Who you've helped me become. Jessie felt tears slip down her cheeks. I'm so tired of being scared. Of waiting for the other shoe to drop. I know, and I'm sorry. Min-jae pulled her into his arms, holding her while she cried. But this is temporary. The past is thrashing because it's dying. We just have to outlast it. What if we can't? Then we'll face that together. But I believe we can. I have to believe we can. 3 weeks later, news broke about a gang shooting in southeast Atlanta. 3 people dead, including Park Jin-soo. The report said it was internal conflict, rival factions fighting for control. Min-jae's phone rang constantly that day. He ignored every call except one from Daejong, who said simply, "It is done. You are free." Jessie watched him hang up, saw the conflict in his expression. "Did you know this would happen?" she asked quietly. "I suspected. Daejong doesn't handle problems with words." "Do you feel guilty?" "Yes. Even though Jin-soo was dangerous, even though he would have killed me if given the chance, yes. I feel guilty." Min-jae looked at her. "Is that what you need to hear? I need to know you still feel it. That you haven't gone cold. I'll never be cold about death. I've caused too much of it." He pulled her close. "But I also won't lie and say I'm not relieved. Jin-soo was a threat to everything we're building. Now he's not." Jessie leaned into him, exhausted by the moral complexity of their situation. "I don't know how to feel about this. Neither do I. But I think that's better than feeling nothing." They stood there, holding each other, while sirens wailed in the distance. After Jin-soo's death, things finally quieted. The calls stopped. The tension eased. Slowly, Jessie began to believe they might actually build something resembling a normal life. For months after their wedding, she finally moved into Min-jae's house. Not because she was ready for physical intimacy yet, but because living separately had started to feel like denial. They were married, building a life together, and that required actually being together. Min-jae gave her complete freedom to change the house. "Make it ours," he said. "I want it to feel like home to you." So Jessie brought warmth to the sterile spaces. Photographs on walls, her grandmother, her parents, Min-jae's mother. Plants that required care, forcing life into cold corners. Books everywhere, because they both loved to read. "It looks loved now," Min-jae said one evening, surveying the changes. "Like people live here, not just exist. That's the goal. Existing isn't the same as living." "No." He pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "You've taught me that." They'd become comfortable with casual affection, holding hands, goodnight kisses, falling asleep in the same bed. But Jessie held firm on waiting for more, and Min-jae never pushed. Sometimes she saw hunger in his eyes, quickly banked, but he always respected her boundary. "I love you," he said one night as they lay in bed, her back to his chest, his arm around her waist. "And I'm grateful for every moment you give me. This is enough. You are enough." "I know you're being patient," Jessie said quietly. "I know I'm asking a lot. You're asking me to wait for something sacred. That's not asking a lot. That's honoring what matters." Jessie rolled over to face him. What if I'm not healing fast enough? What if I can never fully forgive what you did? Then we work with what you can give." "Jessie, I don't expect perfect forgiveness. I expect hope for a partnership where we're honest about hard things and choose each other anyway." He brushed hair from her face. "You're already giving me more than I deserve. Stop saying that. If we're building a real marriage, you have to believe you deserve it. I'm working on that with my therapist." He smiled slightly. "It's a process. So is this. All of this. Then we process together." 5 months after the wedding, Jessie went to therapy herself. Not because Min-jae suggested it, but because she realized she needed help processing her own anger, her own guilt at staying with someone whose past conflicted with everything she'd been taught. Her therapist, Dr. Owens, was a Black woman in her 50s with kind eyes and zero patience for bullshit. "You're carrying guilt that doesn't belong to you," Dr. Owens said during their 3rd session. "His actions aren't yours. You didn't commit his crimes. But by staying with him, aren't I condoning them? Are you? Or are you choosing to believe in redemption? Those are different things. I don't know anymore. Your grandmother taught you that your body and faith are sacred, correct? That love should be earned. Dr. Owens leaned forward. Has Min-jae earned your love? Jessie struggled with the question. He's trying. Every day he's trying. That's not what I asked. Has he earned it? Jessie thought about the last 5 months. The consistency. The honesty. The way Min-jae had restructured his entire life, given up power and wealth, put himself at legal risk, all to prove his change was real. Yes, she said finally. He has. Then why are you still punishing both of you by holding back? Because I'm scared. Scared of being wrong about him. Scared of what it means about me that I could love someone capable of such violence. What does it mean about you? Jessie felt tears start. That I'm not who my grandmother raised me to be. That I've compromised my values. Or, Dr. Owens said gently, that you've learned grace is more complicated than rules. That loving someone despite their past doesn't make you weak, it makes you brave. That night, Jessie sat with Min-jae on their back patio, watching the sunset. I went to therapy today, she said. How was it? Hard. Good. Both. She turned to him. Dr. Owens asked if you'd earned my love. Min-jae went very still. What did you say? I said yes. That you have. Jessie took his hand. And she's right. You've done everything I asked and more. You've been patient and honest, and you've changed your entire life. And I've been holding back because I'm scared. You're allowed to be scared. Given everything. No. Let me finish. Jessie squeezed his hand. I've been holding back because loving you felt like betraying who I was supposed to be. But Dr. Owens made me realize my grandmother taught me to value love that's earned. And you've earned it. More than earned it. Jessie, I'm not saying everything's perfect. I'm not saying I've forgiven and forgotten everything. But I'm saying I want to move forward. Really forward. I want to stop living in this limbo where we're married but not fully together. Min-jae's eyes were bright with emotion he was clearly struggling to contain. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm ready. To be your wife in every sense. To stop waiting for something to feel perfect and instead work with what we have, which is real and complicated and worth fighting for. Are you sure? His voice was rough. Because I don't want you to feel pressured. I meant what I said, this is enough. I know you meant it. That's part of why I'm ready. Jessie brought his hand to her lips, kissing his knuckles. You've proven I can trust you. With my heart, with my faith, with everything. And that's what I needed. Min-jae pulled her close, burying his face in her neck, and Jessie felt his shoulders shake. He was crying, she realized. Silently, but crying nonetheless. I thought, his voice broke. I thought you'd never fully forgive me. That we'd spend our whole lives with this wall between us. There's no wall anymore. Just us. Trying to build something good from a complicated start. He pulled back enough to look at her, cupping her face with both hands. I love you. God, Jessie, I love you so much. I love you too. Even when I was angry, even when I was hurt, I still loved you. I think that's why it hurts so much. Min-jae kissed her then, and it was different from every other kiss they'd shared. This one carried weight, promise, surrender. Jessie felt something in her finally let go, the last of her resistance, her fear, her need to protect herself from the man she'd chosen. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Min-jae rested his forehead against hers. Are you sure? He asked again. Because we can wait. As long as you need. I'm sure. Take me inside. Make me your wife. The vulnerability in his eyes when he looked at her made Jessie's breath catch. This was the man she'd married, not the criminal, not the killer, but the person who'd learned to be gentle despite everything that had tried to make him hard. Min-jae stood, offering his hand. Jessie took it, letting him lead her inside, up the stairs to their bedroom. He moved slowly, giving her time to change her mind at every step. But she didn't want to change her mind. She wanted this, wanted him, wanted to finally claim the marriage they'd been building in pieces. In their room, Min-jae turned to face her, hands trembling slightly as he reached for her. I've imagined this, he admitted quietly. But I want it to be what you need, not what I've imagined. Tell me if anything doesn't feel right. I will. But Min-jae, stop being so careful. I'm not going to break. You're the most precious thing in my life. Of course I'm going to be careful. Jessie reached for him, pulling him close, and kissed him with all the love and frustration and desire that had been building for 6 months. Min-jae responded with a hunger that had been carefully leashed until now, his hands finally exploring with reverent attention. The rest unfolded with a tenderness that made Jessie understand why waiting had mattered. This wasn't just physical, it was a claiming, a completion, a sealing of every promise they'd made. Min-jae treated her like something sacred, and Jessie gave herself without reservation, trusting him completely for the first time. Afterward, they lay tangled together, both processing what had shifted between them. Jessie felt different, not just physically, but emotionally. She'd given him the last piece of herself she'd been holding back, and instead of feeling vulnerable, she felt whole. "I can't believe we waited this long," she murmured against his chest. Min-jae laughed softly. "Worth it, though." "God, Jessie. That was your..." He seemed to run out of words. "I know." She kissed his shoulder. "I feel it too." They stayed like that, wrapped in each other, as night deepened around them. Eventually, Jessie felt Min-jae's breathing even out, and she thought he'd fallen asleep. But then he spoke, voice quiet in the darkness. "Thank you." "For what?" "For giving me this. For believing I could be someone worthy of you. For not giving up on us when I gave you every reason to." His arm tightened around her. "I won't waste this gift. I promise." "I know you won't." Jessie tilted her face up to kiss him softly. "Because you've already proven it. Every day for 6 months, you've proven it. Still, I want you to know, this matters to me. You matter to me. More than anything I've ever built or controlled or fought for." "Show me," Jessie whispered, feeling desire stir again. "Show me how much." Min-jae's response was immediate and reverent, and they came together again with less hesitation, more confidence. Jessie let herself get lost in him, in the knowledge that she'd finally chosen fully instead of holding parts of herself back. Later, much later, she lay boneless and satisfied, Min-jae's fingers tracing lazy patterns on her skin. "We should probably sleep," she murmured without conviction. "Probably." But he made no move to stop touching her. "Min-jae? One more time." He went still, then propped himself up to look at her. "What?" Jessie met his eyes, seeing her desire reflected there. "One more time. Please." Something shifted in his expression, surprise melting into heat, into wonder. "Jessie. Please." He kissed her deeply, thoroughly, then proceeded to show her exactly how thoroughly he'd been paying attention to what she liked, what made her gasp, what made her forget everything except the two of them, and this moment they'd fought so hard to reach. Much later, as dawn began to lighten the sky, they finally slept, tangled together in sheets that smelled like them both, in a bed that was finally theirs in every sense. Jessie woke first, watching Min-jae sleep. His face was peaceful in a way she'd rarely seen when he was awake, no careful control, no weight of past sins. Just a man resting beside his wife, exactly where he belonged. She thought about everything they'd survived to get here. The lies and revelations. The anger and forgiveness. The slow, painful rebuilding of trust. None of it had been easy. But lying here now, watching the man she loved sleep peacefully, Jessie understood that some things were worth fighting for. Some people were worth choosing, even when the choice was complicated. Some marriages were worth saving, even when they started with deception. Min-jae stirred, eyes opening to find her watching him. "Morning," he murmured, voice rough with sleep. "Morning. You're thinking loud thoughts. I can hear them from here." Jessie smiled. "Just thinking about how far we've come. How much has changed. Everything's changed. Because of you." He pulled her closer. "I don't know who I'd be if I hadn't met you. Someone harder. Someone lost. You would have found your way eventually. Maybe. But it would have taken longer. And I wouldn't have had this." He kissed her softly. "A wife who knows the worst of me and chooses me anyway. I don't have words for what that means." "Then show me," Jessie said again, echoing last night. "Show me what it means." Min-jae's response was immediate and enthusiastic, proving that despite very little sleep, they were both very awake now. The next few months unfolded with a lightness Jessie hadn't felt in years. They settled into married life, real married life, not the careful performance they'd been doing before. They fought occasionally, usually about small things, and learned to navigate conflict without either of them shutting down. They laughed more, touched casually, built routines and inside jokes and all the small intimacies that made a relationship real. The foundation work continued, expanding into 3 new countries. Jessie took on more responsibility, discovering she had a talent for program development that matched Min-jae's skill at securing funding. They made a good team, complementing each other's strengths. "We should hire more staff," Jessie said one evening, reviewing budget proposals. "We're both stretched too thin." "Agreed. I've been thinking about bringing on a new program director. Someone with field experience." "Good. Because I have a candidate. Keisha." Min-jae looked up from his laptop. "You're Keisha. She's got nonprofit experience and she speaks French, which would help with our Francophone Africa programs. Plus, she keeps us honest." "You mean she keeps me honest?" "That too." Jessie smiled. "She's come around, you know. On you. She told me last week that she respects what you've built. What we've built. That means a lot. Her approval matters to you." "It does. And she sees what I see now, someone trying to do genuine good." Min-jae was quiet for a moment. "Do you ever regret it? Staying with me despite everything?" "Sometimes I regret how hard it was. But I never regret the choice." Jessie set down her papers. "Min-jae, I need you to stop waiting for me to leave. I'm here. Fully. Completely. Stop punishing yourself with doubt. I'm working on it. Work harder. Because I'm tired of reassuring you that I'm not going anywhere." She softened her tone. "I chose you. Every day I keep choosing you. Trust that." "I do. Or I'm learning to." He closed his laptop, coming to sit beside her. "Sometimes I still can't believe you're real. That this is real. It's real. We're real. And we're going to keep being real for a very long time." 8 months after their wedding, Jessie found herself at her grandmother's grave, something she'd been avoiding. She'd been angry at the old woman, irrationally angry that the values she'd instilled had made this journey so much harder. But standing there now, she understood differently. "You taught me to value myself," Jessie said quietly to the headstone. "To wait for someone who would cherish me. And I did wait, Grandma. I waited and I found someone who treats me like I'm precious. He came with more baggage than either of us anticipated." The wind rustled through trees overhead, carrying the scent of magnolias. "I think you'd like him. Or maybe you wouldn't, knowing his past. But I think you'd respect that he's trying. That he values what you valued: commitment, honesty, working towards something better." Jessie touched the cool stone. "I hope I'm making you proud. I hope loving someone complicated doesn't mean I've lost myself." She felt arms wrap around her from behind, Min-jae, who'd waited by the car to give her privacy. "She'd be proud," he said quietly. "Because you stayed true to who you are while learning to live with complexity. That takes strength." "How do you know what she'd think?" "Because every good thing in you came from her. And those good things are what saved me." He kissed the top of her head. "So yes, she'd be proud." They stood there together as the sun set, honoring the woman whose teachings had shaped them both, Jessie directly, and Min-jae through loving someone who carried those teachings like light. 1 year after their complicated wedding, they threw a small anniversary party. Just close friends, foundation staff, Sister Michelle, and Pastor Williams. Keisha gave a toast that made everyone laugh and cry. "I thought Jessie was making the biggest mistake of her life," Keisha admitted, glass raised. "I was wrong. She was making the bravest choice of her life, choosing to believe in someone's capacity to change. And Min-jae, you've proven that choice right. So here's to complicated beginnings, hard-won trust, and love that refuses to quit." They all drank to that. Later, in the quiet of their bedroom, Min-jae gave Jessie a small wrapped box. "Our first anniversary," he said. 1 year since you agreed to marry a man you barely knew. I thought I knew you." Jessie opened the box to find a delicate gold necklace with a pendant, an ankh, Egyptian symbol of life. "Min-jae, it's beautiful. I chose it because you gave me life. Real life, not just existence. You saw humanity in me when I'd almost forgotten I had any. He fastened it around her neck. Every day with you is a gift I never expected to receive. Jessie turned to face him, the pendant warm against her skin. You make it sound like I saved you. But Min-jae, you saved yourself. I just witnessed it. Believed in it. You made it possible. There's a difference. She kissed him softly. Then I guess we saved each other. Because I was so focused on protecting myself that I almost missed out on this. On us. Best decision you ever made, staying. Best decision we both made, fighting for this. Jessie pulled back enough to meet his eyes. I love you. All of you, past, present, the future we're building. I love you. I love you too. More than I thought I could love anything. They came together with the ease of long practice now, bodies knowing each other's rhythms, hearts finally beating in sync. And later, wrapped in each other, Jessie felt profound gratitude for the journey that had brought them here. It hadn't been easy. It had been messy and painful and complicated. But they'd done the work. Both of them. They'd chosen honesty over comfort, growth over stagnation, love over fear. And in the end, that had made all the difference. Min-jae? Jessie murmured into the darkness. One more time. Please. She felt him smile against her shoulder. Always, he whispered. For the rest of our lives, always. And he kept that promise, in that moment, and in all the moments that followed, building a life together that honored both where they'd been and where they were going. A life built on hard-won truth, imperfect forgiveness, and love that had been tested by fire and emerged stronger. Some stories don't begin with happily ever after. They begin with two broken people deciding that together, they could build something whole. And sometimes, those are the stories that matter most, not because they're easy, but because they're real. Jessie and Min-jae's story was real. Complicated and messy and absolutely worth every difficult moment. And as they drifted towards sleep tangled in each other's arms, both of them knew that the hardest part of their journey was behind them. What lay ahead was simply life, beautiful, ordinary, sacred life, shared with someone who'd learned to love with both strength and gentleness, who'd proven that people could change when given a reason worth changing for. And for Jessie, lying in her husband's arms with her grandmother's values still intact but now expanded to include grace, that was more than enough. It was everything.